Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome to episode 2, My Story, My Why. Thank you so much for being here. I want to quickly take a moment to pause and share that in this episode, I'm going to be going over an intimate part of my story. And although I don't go into all of the details, I do recognize that any conversation about death can be emotionally activating, especially for widows and fellow grievers. Please be gentle with yourself as you listen. And if you feel that something becomes too overwhelming, permission to pause, skip, or take a break. Grief and loss are inherently intense topics, and I can't provide trigger warnings for everything, but I do want to honor your experience and encourage you to move through this episode in a way that feels safe to you. There's a saying that time stands still best in moments that look suspiciously like ordinary life. Truthfully, I never thought much about it until I looked back at my life before Kevin died. It was the daily routines, the small, everyday joys that we so often take for granted, the plans we were making. Little did I know that in one instant, everything would change. Before that moment, I had a life that I loved. Literally every single night would go to bed and would share my gratitudes for the life that I was living, our health, our happiness, our joy, our safety. Kevin and I have been together for just shy of 10 years. And at the time, I was a teacher, a new mom, and a wife. Kevin and I were building a life together that we felt was really meaningful. We owned a home. We were established in our careers and had really started diving into what we had wanted for ourselves and this sweet little family that we had created. We thought our lives had just started. I was 34 and he was 36, and we were just constantly dreaming up what was next for us. I was getting my master's degree. We were planning on trying for baby number 2 in 2020, and Kevin was getting back into mountain bike racing, something that he was super passionate about, that he had taken time off of when we had our son and wanted to get back into it because it was a big part of his life. The day Kevin died will forever be etched in my mind, and I know you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to explain it here. In an instant, the life I knew disappeared. November 23rd, 2019 was the first day of my spring break as a teacher. Kevin woke up, got his mountain bike ready, and before he left, I remember hearing his cleats stepping up our stairs to our home to come in and give our son a kiss, give me a hug and a kiss, and to tell us that he'd be home in a couple of hours so we could head on over to the safari park. Never in my lifetime did I imagine that him walking out that door would be the last moment that I saw him. He was supposed to be home at 12 that day, and when he didn't arrive, I really didn't think much of it. He was notorious for being late after a ride, having a drink with the boys, or just chatting for far too long. But he always texted me. He always shared that he was on his way and he'd make it up to me somehow. And so when it reached 2 p.m. and I still hadn't heard from him, I became really concerned. I had a pit in my stomach and I knew that there was something that was not right. By 3 p.m., my whole life had turned upside down. I was informed that Kevin had been hit by an intoxicated driver driving on the wrong side of the road as Kevin was riding out of a city park. What I was hearing felt impossible. In my mind, Kevin was invincible, especially on a bike. Nothing like this could be happening to him. Almost instantaneously, I had this out-of-body experience, like I was floating above myself, watching someone else's nightmare unfold. And yet, I'd be brought back down to reality, and I would realize this was my story. This was happening to me, to us. I went into what felt like a reflex. I began calling friends and family who were also just in utter disbelief. My family had already arrived, and then Kevin's parents showed up, and it was like everyone was doing something, checking off boxes, getting done what needed to be done in that moment, but our minds were somewhere else entirely, trying to make sense of something that just felt impossible. As I lay in bed that night, I thought to myself, how did I wake up a wife and I'm going to sleep a widow? It all just felt like I was in the twilight zone. The next morning, I woke up in a complete fog, convinced that what had happened the day before had just been a nightmare. I turned to the other side of the bed, anticipating seeing Kevin, and instead was met with my mom's aching red eyes. And I remember thinking, this is real. I don't think I can do this. And instantly a wave of nausea hit me and the tears. And I got out of bed and I just wandered around our home that now all of a sudden felt like a house. Too quiet, full of pain, just aimlessly walking around. I don't even remember what I did that morning. Everything felt blurry, just like I was walking around in a haze. And then I looked down at my phone and these messages started coming in, texts and DMs from women that I was not expecting, local widows and friends who had lost their partners. They shared their stories, offered so much comfort, and reminded me that others had survived this unthinkable pain too. I remember one woman, Ashley, who has now become a dear friend, texting me and asking me, "Are you breathing?" And I thought to myself, how does she know? How does she understand that it literally feels hard to breathe? It was like she knew, she could see this suffocating weight of grief and understood that it felt like there was a constrictor wrapped around my body. What was once just a habit felt so foreign. It felt like I needed to remind myself to take in my breaths. And then there was Natalie, who came over and simply sat with me, crying alongside me. And Shanna, whose husband had been killed the same way just a year earlier, who tried to prepare me for what Thanksgiving and the holidays might feel like. And Amanda, who dropped everything to come meet me for coffee, reminding me gently that somehow I would get through this excruciating time. These beautiful brave souls who had walked this path before me gave me the gift of knowing I wasn't alone. They were my life vests when I felt like I wouldn't survive, when I felt like I was drowning. They became beacons of light, holding me and offering me hope when I needed it the most, when I felt completely hopeless, completely out of control. Experiencing the love and presence of other widows firsthand showed me how vital it is to have spaces where grief is seen and held and understood. This is what inspired me to start sharing small pieces of my own experience on Instagram and grief groups and with friends, truly, really anyone who would listen. Every time someone reached out saying, I thought I was the only one who felt that way, I realized just how deeply widows needed more connection and opportunities for support, and how crucial it is to normalize the experience of grief so fewer of us feel like we're the only ones losing our mind in this uncharted space. That's when I knew I wanted to create more intentional spaces for widows to feel witnessed and validated. This calling led me to become a certified grief coach and a retreat host, and now it brings me here, sharing this podcast with you. The Widows Collective exists to provide that same support, a place where you don't have to navigate your grief alone. As researcher and storyteller Brené Brown reminds us, one of the most powerful things you can do for someone is to simply see them. So my why is easy. It's you. To feel seen, to know there are so many others who ache with you, alongside you, who understand the depths of sorrow you're experiencing. It's the widows who are sitting in their cars crying, wondering if any other woman is sitting in her car doing the same thing. It's the solo mom who feels like she's failing because she can't hold it all together. It's the woman who wonders if she'll ever laugh again or feel like herself again. I want you to know that this journey is not a sprint, it is a marathon. It's okay if you're still deep in your grief, wondering if it will ever get lighter. It's okay to miss them every single day. And it's also okay to start imagining what life could look like now, if that feels like the right next best step for you. This podcast exists to honor both the ache and the aliveness within us. Grief and joy can coexist, even if that feels impossible right now. And because when we feel seen, we begin to heal, not by erasing the pain, not by taking away our story, but by realizing we were never meant to carry it by ourselves. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me share my story here today with you. If there's one thing that I've learned, well, there are many things that I've learned, but this thing that I want to share with you is that grief doesn't mean it's the end of your story. It's the start of a new chapter, and it is one that you never asked to write. I do understand that, and I don't say that flippantly. But it is one that can still hold meaning and beauty and even peace. In our next episode, I'll talk about a question that so many of us carry. Are my best days over? We'll explore what it means to live in the after and how to find hope again, even when life feels completely unrecognizable. Until then, baby steps and deep breaths, and remember, you don't have to navigate this foreign world by yourself. You've been listening to the Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'm Sorry We're Friends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.